In your experience, how do you feel the schools that you deal with, or that you've heard of, maybe some of your colleagues are dealing with? How do you feel schools are responding to the mental health needs of our students?
I do think each school district does something different. When I was working in the school system, and this is when I was in Virginia, they had what they call the therapeutic day treatment program, where they had behavior counselors that actually came into the school, and any kids that was identified as at risk, whatever that definition was, and they
Mhm.
parents agreed for them to potentially, what they really had was a counselor
Okay.
um, at their disposal. Um, I seen it kind of help, but then it's very limiting because we're outside. Like we work for the we work for the community service board is who we was
Mhm.
working for. And so they contracted with the schools for us to be able to come in there. Um, but it was still very limiting because I still can't do what I need to do because I can't always pull you out of class because guess what? You still got to be in class.
Mhm.
And so finding that balance of providing that mental health support, helping them self-regulate, providing them with tools and skills that they can use at their disposal. Because one thing that I learned, you can teach a child or an adult all the things that you want to, but they have to choose to actually implement it.
It's correct. It's Coach D here. I'm a post secondary and workforce readiness coach, author, and speaker. And I'm empowering educators, inspiring students, and transforming schools one conversation at a time. Welcome to Coach D Wants to Know, the podcast where we dive deep into all things post secondary success. Whether it's career readiness through college, trade schools, the military, apprenticeships, or entrepreneurships, we're talking about it. This podcast is for school leaders, counselors, business owners, parents, and students who want to explore every opportunity behind high school. Because when we know better, we guide better. So let's jump in and uncover the possibilities together because Coach D wants to know. Welcome to Coach D Wants to Know. Thank you all for joining in again this week. I have a very special guest on here. I've known her for a number of years. I know her family. I love them all. And I even just told her she's coming on here today looking just like her big sister, who is a really, really good friend of mine. We used to coach together, teach together, have fun together. And it's an honor to have you here with me, Jerecia. It really is. Thank you for joining. We're going to talk about healing begins with belief, shifting mindsets for mental wellness. And again, my special guest today is an expert in this area, and it is Miss Jerecia Lee. So thank you again. Welcome to the show. So we're going to move right into this. I'm going to set the tone right now with my guest, and the purpose of this is I want her just to introduce herself to you, and she is the highlight of this episode, and it is so important, especially right now. So much is going on in schools with our youth. I know we have like suicide prevention months, and I know we have SEL, and I know there's all these buzzwords, give them grace. We have to do all types of things to try to maneuver through what's going on. But some of that stuff to me continues to be check off the box.
Yep.
We get to put it out there to say, yes, we have this in our building, or yes, we have this in our district. But the question still is at hand is it being implemented with fidelity?
Right.
So that is very key. So welcome to the show. I want
Thank
you right now just to tell the audience who you are and what is it that you do. We're going to start there.
Okay. So my name is Jerecia Lee. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am licensed in Virginia and Georgia, currently residing in Georgia. And then I'm also a registered telehealth provider for South Carolina. Um, last it's going on 2 years. It will be 2 years in September-ish. I branched out on my own and started a consulting private practice business called Journey with J. Lee Consulting. This came out of leaving a job that I thought was perfect at one moment, and in a season it was very perfect. But I had to come out of that, and God said, "Okay, I need you to. It's time. It's time for you to do your private practice." So, being obedient, I shifted, and I'm here. I currently work with adults. Um, with the specialty in relationships. And so relationships with yourself, relationships with a partner, family dynamics, or even work relationships. But I have a history of working with kids in the school system. Before I transitioned to the federal government, I had the opportunity to work with kids and at-risk kids in elementary, middle, and high school. And so I do have a passion for the youth. I'm currently a youth director for my church. And so I'm still working with the youth, and I'm still able to see some of the struggles that our kids are facing, especially with their mental health.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Again, much needed during this time. Especially, I think this is timely because not only can we help out the teachers who are having to struggle through this testing season, you're still, you have those pressures. Then our students have just the pressures of what they consider, the biggest moments of their life right now, some of them. But I think as they begin to transition back home, and we all know that sometimes school is their safe haven. Yep. School is a place where they can find peace. School is a place where they can find a trusted adult. So it's really good and timely because we are about to send those students back home to their parents for a couple of months. So again, this conversation is very timely. So again, how does your work contribute to improving mental health in the education services and in that space? So I know you said you have worked with youth. You worked with them across the board. You're working with them in the church now. Exactly your work that you do, though, with the consulting company, how do you implement that within school buildings?
So I can answer that in two different ways. So with my private practice, I do actually work with a lot of teachers who are struggling with the demands in the school system, unhealthy school systems, trying to navigate how to teach, but then regulate the behaviors of the kids and regulate their own emotions and things. So I do get to work with a lot of teachers right now, which is really, really good for me, or I enjoy working with the teachers also on that side of it. The other piece of this is with the consulting side, I do offer workshops where I can come into the school system and address if there is a specific need. So whether it's with the teachers or with the kids, and doing some type of seminar with them to talk about self-esteem, to talk about expectations, to talk about their mental health, I do offer that service also.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk and we're going to shift a little bit here. Okay. We're going to have to really break down some core beliefs. We're going to have to look at what our challenges are. And we're going to have to talk a little bit about building the self-esteem in these students. So let's move right into the challenge in focus right now. So what concerns you most about the current state of youth mental health?
The current state is we have a lot of kids who are vocalizing, because I'm not going to say that it has actually been an increase. I know when I was growing up, we didn't talk about depression, anxiety. We didn't talk about mental health. It wasn't talked about. So I don't know if there's really been a true increase or people are just being more vocal about it. However, we do know COVID definitely had an impact on the kids.
Yes.
So if you can repeat your question, sorry.
You're fine. No, you are definitely right in line. That again, those concerns right now, the current state of our youth and what's going on right now. What concerns you most about it?
So we have an influx of kids who don't know their own value, who don't know their own self-worth, who, as a result, are experiencing depression, anxiety, that is leading to them to think about suicide. You have bullying that's going on within the school systems. So now you also are looking at people coming in and shooting at schools because of the bullying or their own anxiety and depression. So I do think the kids' mental health needs a lot of focus and a lot of actual, like you said, not check boxes, but actual resources to help them navigate these things, because they don't know.
Right. They definitely don't know. They, many of them, and I talk to my kids all the time. I'm in a perfect space. I thank God I am in the space that I am in. I've been a school leader. I was great at that. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that journey. That was always on my bucket list. I always wanted to lead a school, and I was blessed to be able to lead a CTAE school, a college and career academy. So I've seen the transition all the way from, coming in teacher all the way up to a leader of teachers and students. So what really worries me most is that, again, they are overexposed to so much at such an early age. They are overly exposed to things where they don't know how now. Where are the boundaries? There obviously are no boundaries, because everything I'm exposed to, whether it's the conversation, it used to be, kids were not around grown folk conversation.
Yep.
You come in the room and the grown folks talking, they looking at you real strange, like, okay, now it was a look, and can let you go. You might have been bold enough to be hiding behind the wall and listening, but you were not bold enough to be in the room.
Right.
So that's the difference. So we're overexposed to our grown folks conversation, whether we're in the house, whether we're in the car, because everything is Bluetooth now.
Yep.
So I hear both sides of the conversation in the car while we're riding.
Yep.
I have an abundance of TikTok, every social media. Kids are young as 2 and 3 and know how to scroll through video after video after video after video. So in order to think about boundaries, it's hard for them to maneuver in what is supposed to be the norms, or maneuver in what is supposed to be expected in society, when they have never had the opportunity to operate within those expectations. So all of a sudden you come into the schools, and you're in the buildings, and you're in the rooms, and you're in the hallways, you're in the cafeteria, and there's this unwritten rule about what we do, because it's what we've always done, or what we've always kept out. But I've never been exposed to that, because I've had exposure to all things are okay.
And I think an extra piece to that also is they don't know how to self-regulate either. And so the impulse control is non-existent.
Right. And then the word now, and I get it, it is a true word. It is relevant, overstimulated. But baby, I tell my kids, if you say that word one more time, you literally, all you were asked to do was to get out some paper, take out, a few things, let's get prepared, and all of a sudden you're overstimulated. How? This is the basic, this is the norm, this is the smallest level of an expectation, just to be ready, but you're overstimulated. So you hear these words over and over again, everybody is saying them, so automatically, without you even understanding what overstimulated is, you're automatically overstimulated, and that's why you have to crash out. I'm like, okay, go ahead, crash out. We're gonna crash out together in my classroom. All of us just gonna crash it out. But they know I say that in love. I build true relationships with my kids, and I can, like you said, the self-regulation, I help them understand how to self-regulate, how to self-advocate, how to really communicate in a way, like we'll type out an email. You got something you need to say to your school counselor. Okay, you're gonna type it out. Then I'm gonna look at, like, baby, who are you talking to like that? And what? I mean, like that, you have to realize how that's going to be taken on the other side, know. So we work on those things, and we learn that, because again, it is not being taught.
It's not.
And so when you talk about the anxiety of them trying to just maneuver through expectations that they've never understood or been taught, that adds another layer as well in this world. Absolutely. So in your experience, how do you feel the schools that you deal with, or that you've heard of, maybe some of your colleagues are dealing with, how do you feel schools are responding to the mental health needs of our students?
I do think each school district does something different. When I was working in the school system, and this is when I was in Virginia, they had what they call the therapeutic day treatment program, where they had behavior counselors that actually came into the school, and any kids that was identified as at risk, whatever that definition was, and their parents agreed for them to participate. What they really had was a counselor at their disposal. I I seen it kind of help, but then it's very limiting because we're outside. Like we work for we work for the community service board is who we was working for. And so they contracted with the schools for us to be able to come in there. But it was still very limiting because I still can't do what I need to do because I can't always pull you out of class because guess what? You still got to be in class. You know, and so finding that balance of providing that mental health support, helping them self-regulate, providing them with tools and skills that they can use at their disposal. Because one thing that I learned, you can teach a child or an adult all the things that you want to, but they have to choose to actually implement it.
That's correct. I'm experiencing that with my seniors now. Here it is May, and I think I sent home even a letter to my students and my juniors and saying your child has every tool and every resource to go to school for free, to pass the ASVAB with a score that's going to get them the job they want, to get a skilled trade. I said, but I cannot do it for them, and neither can you. So this is us all partnering together to push them and to guide them and help them and not take the brakes off and, you know, not put the brakes on too much or whatever. But we've got to raise them so that they're about to move out of this world and they'll move out into this world effectively and be great citizens. So again, the tools are there. Some of them are being implemented very well. Some of them, you know, it's a check off the box system, and it's anywhere in between. So again, we can't do it for them, but we do have to coach them along. We do have to provide the services, and we do have to do everything we can to help them understand that it will be in your best interest to learn these strategies, learn these tools, and implement them in order to become what you want to be in this life. Because when it's all said and done, if there was no social media, who are you actually impressing?
That is very important because I think that has had a big impact. Not only who are you trying to impress, but then if you're not where you're supposed to be or have the look, now you're bullied, right? And it's social media, so it's all day long. You pick up your phone, you got people making comments, sending things. It's a whole different ball game than when we was growing up. We didn't have the phone. So if you got bullied at school, you might have got bullied on the bus, but when you got home, you was okay unless the family dynamics was toxic also. But the kids are consistently exposed to all of the negativity and I like to say keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, I always tell them you're too busy impressing somebody who does not have your scholarship in their pocket. They don't have your transcript. They don't have your next car. They don't have anything, but you feel like you have to impress somebody who's on the same level as you are. That's going to work for you in the end. Whether it's my young ladies, and I tell my girls in the schools that I deal with right now, they will bring you down before you bring them up.
Yes.
And I see it in action all the time. I've seen it in action for years. It's still happening today.
Yes.
And you know, I do as much as I can to counsel them in the right way, even with my own shortcomings and everything. I tell them we're all human. We've all made mistakes. We all go through it. I've had other adult women to speak into their lives as well. And so again, when I say they have the tools, they have the strategies, they have the knowledge. But when I see them 2-3 days later, I'm like, well, how's it going? Well, we're going to work it out. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to love you regardless, because lessons you do have to learn on your own.
Yes.
You want to love you regardless. I am here.
Right.
You know, don't put yourself in any kind of harm's way. Make sure you make wise choices. Make sure you come back to me tomorrow. Make sure you come back over the weekend, over breaks. They know I'm always saying it before they go out. Any day, I'm the last one a lot of them see when they leave our school, because my duty is up front. You know, y'all be safe. See you tomorrow. Come back to us. Things like that. So, you know, just trying to cover them any way I can and let them know that they do have the trusted people at school.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I was going to say, which is very important, because there's a lot of schools that don't have that atmosphere, that don't have the teachers that care and pour into, and it's not because they came into the field not caring, but they're burnt out.
Yes.
they're exhausted.
Yes.
They need their own emotional support, right? And I always talk about, like, we can't pour from an empty container. Like, we just cannot. And a lot of times, and I know I'm kind of shifting to the adults, but I think this feeds to the kids. A lot of times as adults, we don't have good boundaries ourselves. We don't have good self-care and things in place to refill us, because teaching is a gift, and I give all you guys all the credit, because I can't do it. I student teach for a little bit. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I counsel.
I have seen so many great teachers come and go. That was, these about to be some shameless plugs, but I got the book, the Burnt Out Teacher, 7 Steps to Relight Her Fire. This one, in the back of it, is 3 letters from teachers who left the school system within the first 3 years. And so they wrote letters like, "Dear Administrator, this, telling this is why I left."
Yes.
Again, right before we recorded this, I told you I've got a teacher that's like literally on, like, she's like 1.5 of the other foot is out the door. And I'm like, no, hold on. We got some strategies. We can work. We can, we're almost at the finish line for this year. Then we're going to reset. And I shared when I first released the book, and I was at one of my book signings, I said, we always have May, that first weekend, May, that first full week is Teacher Appreciation Week. And yes, we appreciate it, but we need that throughout the year. And we don't not only need it if gifts are great. So if you got a teacher out there, next week, is Teacher Appreciation Week. Woohoo! May 5th through the 9th, I believe it is. You all get your teacher something great. But also we need it through the partnership.
Yes.
With the parents, the partnership with the community, the partnership with businesses.
Yes.
I've always said that a lot of businesses think that the schools don't want them in the schools. A lot of schools think that the businesses don't want them, don't want to come in. So it's this lack of communication. And also the shield that some schools don't want their dirty laundry, air quotes, to get out. But those things that we cover can't be healed.
Nope.
Those things that we don't express and let people know where we're lacking at. People have the answers. They really do have the answers. But if we don't tell them we need something, they think everything is okay. And here, you're over here struggling and dying in silence when help is available. And it doesn't always have to come in the form of, financial payments. Some people are going to do things pro bono. Now, I'm an entrepreneur just like you are. I have a business, my consulting business, just like you do. But there are avenues and there are paths that you can do to partner to make sure services get taken care of. The businesses can partner together. They can go in and write grants together. There are things that can be done, but the needs have to be expressed and the ears have to be open so that you're willing to hear what some of our school systems are saying, what our teachers are saying. Our teachers are on the front line. They really are. Our students are only going to be as healthy as our teachers are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what most don't understand. You hear, and I know our segment is primarily geared towards students and their mental health, but like you said, you work with teachers as well. We both do. In the mindset that if I've got a healthy and whole teacher in that classroom, that healthy and whole teacher is only going to bleed out healthy and whole wellness over that child. Absolutely. If I have a teacher in that classroom who is hurting, who is depleted, who doesn't feel heard, who just feels like there's nothing that she or he can do right, then they don't have anything positive to offer to that child.
Nope.
Every child is not going to be coming in that building just rosy and happy. I've had some come in with the worst attitudes, but I didn't take it personal.
Right.
My kids know you show out on me today, I'm not going to show out on you, and then I won't even remember it tomorrow. You're going to start fresh tomorrow. Now, trust and believe now, you're going to have my conversation before we get done that day. But again, it's going to be in love. Me and you, we might have to step outside. You and I might have to take out, we go outside and have a little conversation, but it's all going to be done in love, and it's done and squashed. It's over. To be a teacher, you cannot hold anything in from these kids, from the administrators, from anybody. You've got to go in there armored up, prayed up, armed up day in and day out, knowing that. And I think this is what I've always said. I don't work for any principal. I don't
Mm,
work for any school district. I don't work for any school system, anything. I work for God.
there you go.
So as long as I'm
Mm-hmm.
going in there every day, clothed in whatever He wants me to be,
Yep.
how He wants me to be, what He wants me to pour out, He does the refilling every day. I literally, and I had to learn that. I had to
Yeah.
learn that. And I think I've seen the most growth in myself now as a teacher, even as a school leader. I thought the building was going to fall apart if I wasn't in it. For years,
Mm-hmm.
I had to be the one doing this. I had to be the one doing that. And then God would really start to deal with me. I'm like, I can't grow anybody else up if you're doing everything.
This is true.
Yes, you're great at this. Yes, you're great at that. Yes, I know I can count on you, but I can't grow them up if you're doing everything. So it took me a lot to be able to step back and allow people to step in. Because number one, you're gonna look at it like nobody can do it like I can.
Uh-huh.
And they might not, but that doesn't mean their way of doing it is not good too.
Absolutely.
I mean, even
Absolutely.
I was so into teaching and so into showing up every day and making sure I was on time and everything. And all those things are important, but they
Right.
shouldn't be to the point where you just are overly missing the joy of the job because you're trying to make sure you do everything right. Like I would stay probably till 10 o'clock the night before I was going to be out getting my sub plans together.
Mm,
My kids, you better not disrespect my sub. La. And then I had to think back, and I do that now. I'm like, baby, are those kids safe? Did that sub just keep them safe?
and
As
that's all
long
that
as
matters.
he kept here, he kept them safe. You're good. You will go back to teaching the next day. And I
Yep.
can leave the building and I can leave my children in peace now again because I know God's got it.
Yes.
And it's not me having to control. And I think that's what some teachers are doing, especially the younger ones. They are over critical of themselves.
Right.
They are overcritical of scores in the beginning and feedback coming from people who they don't know really well or have a really good relationship yet with. And so
Uh-huh.
they take all that and they hold all of that in, and then that comes over on their kids because now you're going to be overcritical of your kids. You're
Right.
overcritical of yourself.
Yep.
So I'll be overcritical of my kids because I'm trying to get the scores. I'm
Right.
trying to get the perfect number. I'm trying to do this. And you're missing those small daily tidbits, those small areas of growth. Like, last week I couldn't even get him to put his name on the paper. Today I got his name and the date. That's progress.
That's progress.
That's progress.
And you
So,
got to celebrate it. To
right.
build that confidence up, you got to
Yes.
celebrate it because a lot of times parents, teachers, adults, we focus on what the kids are doing wrong and put more emphasis on that versus, like you said, the progress that they're making. Did they stay awake at school today? Did they write their name today? Did they not cuss anybody out today?
Right. Yeah. And you will see that growth in them. And when you start to acknowledge that growth, you start to see even more. Again, I've shared this on one of my episodes before, and I love him to the death. I got a little young man in my class, and he wants to be a rapper. Now, I know that's not the ideal career for somebody of my age to think about it, or for someone older than me that has some more years of teaching. But for me, knowing kids and anything is possible for them these days, and to know that, first of all, I got to build a relationship with you that's real for you to understand my criticism of your music, my feedback on your music, or whatever I'm getting ready to say. So I was like, oh, for real? Because, my class, I'm trying to teach them how to get ready for college or life after college, a career. So you got 4 choices: entrepreneurship, enlistment, enrollment, or employment. Those are the 4 E's that you can do. Right. Rapping is not really in any of those, kind of sort of entrepreneurish, but we're talking about something where we're going to make some money right out of high school so that you won't be on grandma's couch sleeping. So again, I got to build a relationship with this child. Now, I could have been the type of teacher that I already told him, you won't make it. Like that would have been an automatic shutdown of his mentality, of anything we could have done to build. And, any kind of relationship building that I would have tried with him probably would have failed.
Absolutely.
So at this particular point, he was like, I don't want this college stuff. I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a rapper. I said, you got some music? He was like, yeah, I got music. I was like, let me hear it. I mean, you just saw his whole face change. All right, let me hear it. It is what it is, and I was preparing myself like, oh God, it's going to be some mumble rap. I'm not going to be able to understand it, but we're going to try. So after school, me and another one of my colleagues, and I was like, girl, we get ready to listen to this boy music. He swear he can rap, whatever, whatever. So we listened to it and we were sitting there, we were looking at each other. We were shocked. The music was good. And so I was like, and I've shared it with a couple of people that are in the music industry. It's like, listen to this. And then I would bring back their feedback from people who are deep in the industry and read it to them. And so that was like their critique on it was, this is good, but you need to work on such and such and such. And he received that feedback.
Yep.
Now it's not that he's not even saying I don't want to go to college now. I got him thinking about, okay, I need you to know all aspects of the music field, not just be in front of the mic. Yes. How do you engineer the music? How do you do the choreography? How do you whatever the music business? So now he's looking at that and thinking about going to college because he has a great GPA. He did really well on the SAT for his first attempt. And so I'm like, you got all the smarts. And I was looking at his transcripts. I'm like, you only had one bad semester. What was going on that semester? He's like, yeah, it wasn't good. He only had one bad semester. Everything else has been B's and A's. So, but I'm digging that deep enough for him to understand that he is cared for.
That, yes.
So whether or not I get him to fully enroll in a 4-year is irrelevant. That little boy knows that I care about him. I care about what he wants to do in life. Right. And he's willing to listen to me to think about other options as well.
Yep.
And I always teach when I work with teachers, especially new teachers, I always tell them you have to meet them where they are before you will ever be able to bring them to where you want them to go. I had to meet him on the rap, like, I don't want to hear, even going to prom. And one thing I've always done, even when I was in Greenville at Berea, when I first started teaching, we got prom, we got a basketball game, we got a football game. I was driving an hour and a half to get to school, but I was still at their football games, or I was still at their basketball game, or I was still wherever, because I know that's where the true relationships are built. I know that's where the true moments where those kids will really invest in you. It's not about the work. It's not about the test that we're going to have. It's not about the score I made. It's like literally you here. I can look up at the stands and sometimes see my teacher and don't see my parent.
You showed up.
So yeah, and that's what they want. And that helps so much with that mindset. And I know, look, I'm over here talking, girl, let me get back to you. Let me get back to you. This is your area. All right. Let's keep going.
You're hitting on all of the things though.
Yeah. So it's relatively elementary when we think about just the basics of human relationships.
Yep. Absolutely.
And as a coach, and I coached with your sister for years, and we always knew that we could get kids to run through walls for us. Like literally, they're gonna try to break down the wall if we asked them to, because they trusted us with whatever. They knew we were not going to steer them wrong in anything. They knew we cared for them all around, not just them on the court, not just for you to hang another banner in our gym, not for us just to get another stat in the scorebooks or whatever. No, we cared about you as young ladies, and we were going to do everything we could to instill in you the principles of being a good young lady and then being a student, then an athlete. And that's what it was all about. We have great relationships with them till this day. We love them. I still talk with them. Your niece, one of them, both of your nieces. It's a beautiful. All your nephews, all of that. But they knew as me being a teacher or a coach that yes, I meant business, but it was the business of making them successful.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So that's what it was about. So let's keep going here.
Okay.
Can you walk us through an example of how shifting a core belief has changed someone's outlook or success that you've been working with or you have worked with?
Okay, before I talk about the shift, I want to identify what are some actual limiting core beliefs, and I'm going to say it specifically for teenagers because at each age group, there's different limiting core beliefs. But for some of the teenagers, and this can go into adulthood if it's not addressed, some of them, I am not good enough.
Oh, that's an adult one. For real.
Which is often triggered by comparison. So what we talked about, academic pressure or social rejection.
Oh gosh.
Right. Another one is I have to be perfect to be loved or accepted. And this one can come from having someone that has high expectations of them or constantly being criticized.
Okay. Yeah.
Another one, I don't belong.
Girl, that's an adult. You sure that's kids? Because that's adult all day long.
And so the crazy thing is, what I have found is that it's an adult thing because it wasn't dealt with as a teenager. And then a lot of times it's reinforced because we have this mindset. And so these are the things that we're seeing, and these are the things that we are experiencing. And so it's reinforced all the way up to adulthood until it's like, oh, this is really not working. Right. And so if we can start addressing these things as teenagers, you can help shift them to being a healthy, productive, self-confidence, all that good stuff as an adult. But the teenage stuff just follows them into adulthood. So you're absolutely correct. My voice doesn't matter. This one hit when you were saying with the male student that you was working with, and that if you would have just dismissed him, told him you're never going to be a rapper, automatically you have reinforced my voice doesn't matter.
Right.
And since my voice don't matter to you, I'm definitely not about to listen to you. Automatic.
I have no issues out of him in my classroom. He comes to class on time. I can see him in the hallways, talking sometimes with, a crowd that I don't think, is going to push I think he's too academically smart to be with some of the people he hangs with. And so I can have that conversation with him too. And he receives it because he knows I'm looking out for his best interest. I know he has a future in the music industry, and I know he has a great GPA, a great test score. He is a very respectful young man. And like I said, his music is good. I'm expecting like, okay, Lord, we're going to have to get the holy water, the oil, everything to clean me. No, Lord, no. But I'm going to listen to this kid's music. And I was, again, it was like this light bulb, and everybody, the adults were like, this is good. And so, again, it's just like you said, their voice and to make sure they feel like they are heard and again, not just dismissed. And again, a lot of that dismissing as adults is going to come from just what you said. Well, we didn't clean up as teenagers.
Right.
So,
right. Definitely. And so all of this, it definitely shapes our self-esteem. It shapes our motivation, and it shapes our behavior. And so what I have kind of found is these things also start making us make decisions out of fear. So having that conversation of getting to the root, like you said, what was those experiences? I frequently talk to the adults about what was that experience. Kids now, the teenagers at least, if you take the time out to create a safe environment for them, they will communicate openly to you.
Sometimes too openly. And then that's when I'm running to the social worker. Come on, baby, we gotta go. We gotta go to the social worker. Got to. But they trust me enough to know that our social worker is amazing, and she's gonna do everything. Like literally, this just happened last week after spring break. I was checking on one of my kids, and he saw me in the hall. He said, "Hey, Coach D," and I said, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" He was like, "Well, not good." And then he just goes into. I'm like, "Oh, okay, hold on 1 second. Let me close my door." And whatever. And we go straight to our social worker. But again, they will find you as a safe place, and they will know that you offer them whatever support that they need, and they know that you can help them make it all right.
And so you've already talked about the mind shift without even realizing it. By the adults creating that safe environment, you as the teacher, and then the social worker, that duo right there is giving them and showing them, which is very important, is showing and demonstrating, for them, okay, this happened, but this is how we can handle it, and handle it delicately, and where I feel safe. Right. So with the teenagers, it's not always about beating something into them. And I don't mean physically beating, but I mean, keep talking, saying the same thing over and over, but it's creating that space for them and be like, okay, well, let's have a conversation.
Right.
talking about the pros and cons. And then if you want to go the professional route, what I would do in counseling is, okay, where did this come from?
Mm-hmm.
And start getting them to process, like, there's other ways, showing them different perspectives. Sometimes pointing out, okay, you told me this horrible thing over here,
Mm-hmm.
but what if we shift and focus on this positive over here?
Right.
Or how do we turn this negative into a positive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that
Right.
way, I think that helps them stop being in the victim mode and they become the victor,
Yep.
and that they can use that as a foundation to build on and to continue to grow every day, as opposed to, again, I was famous and I had to do the hard work, the mind work, and everything. I wish years ago I would have gone to a counselor years ago. But again, that's probably something we need to address on here, the stigma,
Yep.
especially in the Black community, about if you go to a counselor, you must be crazy. Or, we didn't talk about old Up back there. We just kept him in the room, things like that. We didn't tell anybody out there, in the world about what was going on. And so that is something that has limited us in our growth as well, and us being able to really sever the root of whatever was going on. I'm literally right now, this is, I'm a journal person. Lord have mercy. I love journals. A lot of my books came out of my journals. I want to, people go to stores and they see different things and they can't not buy it. I have to stop myself literally from buying journals because I go directly to the journal aisle in any store, and I'm like, what is this pretty? I mean, I don't even know what the pages, how lines. It might just be 5 pages in the inside, but the cover and everything. So I'm reading the series by Jen Sincero, the You Are Badass series, and like literally, I'm on the You Are a Badass about making money, that book right now, and literally having to deal with some of the mindsets around money.
That's a core belief that limit us. That is a great example of a core belief that limits us. Absolutely.
It is mind blowing to understand like the work. And I have the grown children of mine and I have my grandchildren. So years ago, with them being young, I'm blessed because of the people that they have in their lives. My granddaughters, their dad and their mom are very conscientious about them learning money principles early on.
Yes.
So that we can sever a lot of the financial situations that were passed along. And it wasn't passed along like, I'm trying to harm you. This is all we knew. This is how we made it. This is how we survived. You did not dream or even think about being rich. Like that was that's a bad word. So again, those mindsets, just like you talked about, shifting those core beliefs into, and I had a very good friend that would she would always speak about unlearning what you had learned, unlearning and relearning. And again, when I started that mindset shift and when I started that mindset work, life really started to look different for me.
Yep.
And and I see where you're going, and I'm seeing where you're going with this breaking down of the core beliefs. And I don't know if this is for the kids or Lord, if this one was for me as confirmation. I don't even know. But it makes so much sense. And like, again, all it is getting understanding and getting back to the basics.
Yes, it is. But it's so hard. So much junk. We carry so much junk, so much trauma, so much, like you said, the core beliefs. And I want to hit on and emphasize what you just said, that the core beliefs that we had or that was passed down to us, it served them. It kept them safe. It kept them alive, right? We don't talk about that piece.
Right.
But I want to say, but I don't feel like I can necessarily say because the way things going right now, we're in a different time. And so throughout life, we have to be open to identifying what core beliefs served us and what is no longer serving us. And like you said, severing it if it no longer serves us. But it's very hard to shift that mindset sometimes, because sometimes we don't know what to do. Sometimes we need permission to change the mindset, because it's like, wait, I can do that.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of adults, you can have boundaries with your parents. I can do what?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
You absolutely can have boundaries with your parents.
yes. I think that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning about you couldn't be in the room. There's certain things that should be the norm, and there's certain things that should not be. That not being around hearing conversation that's not for you, that's a norm. That's a principle, that's a boundary that should be in there, because everything is not for a kid to know, to talk
Right.
about. You could say something in the heat of the moment that they hold on to about Auntie Bev forever. So those things right there, you just said it, you were upset, you really didn't mean it, but that kid heard it and holds on to that, or that continues to be that perception they're going to have. So those things, the basics, the respect, those things are core. But when we get to a lot of the other ones, like I talk about money, relationships, forgiveness, things like that, you ain't spoke to so-and-so in 39 years and you still mad because they whatever it was. I mean, and people, will hold on to that. You'll pass that down from generation to generation. What the television show, the Hatfield and McCoys, that's real. Y'all don't even, your great grandchild don't even know why they don't like that side of the family.
We were told not to.
Not to. So again, there are certain things that create boundaries and help us to become great citizens. And those core beliefs are the ones we need to practice, because those beliefs will take these kids that we have in our schools right now and help them. If they're good people at home, they'll be good people in class.
Right. Right.
That's what a lot of times when they say your parents are your first teachers, it's not always about math, science, social studies being the first teacher. No. But the fact that you are teaching them character, integrity, honesty, good work ethic, conflict resolution, all of those things at home,
yes,
that is going to transfer over into the classroom. And that's what's going to help minimize all the classroom behavior and allow these teachers to stay in the classroom and teach. And not want to leave a profession that they worked so hard to get. Some of these teachers are in loan debt to become teachers, and they're willing to risk it all and just say, I can't do it anymore.
Yep.
But they loved it enough and they wanted enough to go in debt for it. But they've fallen out of love with not teaching and not kids, but with the daily struggle to get kids to do what they're supposed to do on a basic level. It's not even the scores and the tests and everything else. It's just the basic human decency in the classroom. That's it. And that basic human decency comes from home. That doesn't come out of a textbook. That doesn't come out of a standard, secondary standards, anything. That basic human decency comes from home. So that's where that correlation of teachers, parents are the first teachers. That's where that comes from.
Agreed. I hardly agree.
Let's transition. So I think we already did, because we got to building self-esteem. I think we touched on a lot of that also. So let's talk about how self-esteem impacts wellness and outcomes. What are some common signs that a student is struggling with low self-esteem?
So we have the obvious ones, right? The ones that don't want to speak up, the ones that are shy. And we got to be careful with that, because some people are truly just introverted. Like, I'm good. Like, I feel good about myself, but I just really don't want to be in the front, right? But checking in even on those introverts, because you're not going to know when they're depressed. You're not going to know when they're angry, because they don't show it, because they are so reserved, right? So low self-esteem could be, are they trying too hard to fit in? Are they, if we're talking about females, are they boy crazy?
You're right. Looking for that attention.
Those are some of the things that you can kind of start for self-esteem. Some of the things that that are not so obvious is when you give them a graded paperback, how do they respond? If they get a bad grade, do they just put their head down? Are they the ones that, if you read body language really good, when it's time to do something, you can kind of see that they want to do it, but they're nervous or they're scared to do it, and so they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the little things that if we pay attention, you can kind of see that, oh, something's going on with this baby. They don't feel good about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that they're worthy. They don't know that they are beautiful just as they are.
Right. And I was sitting there and I was thinking as you were giving examples, and I'm looking around and I'm looking at my students, and like, I can see, and it definitely matches up with them. And we've had the conversations about, you are enough, baby. You are enough. I've got kids that have 4.0 GPAs who still don't feel like they're enough.
Perfectionism.
Mm-hmm. They're doing everything they can, and that's a different level of anxiety. And I'm like, take this pressure off of you. Why do you have to be so perfect right now? Why does everything have to fit into your, whatever it is, your puzzle that you've created? Why do all your pieces have to go in right now? And so, it's just taking the time and helping them, just slow down, take it in, learn from your experiences. You're not going to be great at everything. I need you to fail some right now in the comforts of all these people who have their arms wrapped around you. I need you to feel some discomfort here while I can help you rebuild. I don't want that first sign of hardship or your first really bad setback to come. You're not around me or you're not around your parents. I don't want it to happen like that. So I need you to stretch a little bit. I need you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. I need you to try something that's just not as easy, not whatever. I need you to stretch while I'm here to help you.
Yes.
So yeah, I can see, again, as you were giving those examples, like I'm literally thinking about some, and I tell them all the time, one of my favorite quotes is, the loudest person in the room is usually the most insecure.
I was going to say that one because I didn't mention that one. I was going to say you're a bully, or like you say, that loud one that's always talking about somebody else, pointing out somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely have low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. It's evident. And I think you, as a good teacher, if you have those relationships with those kids, you're going to be able to point it out. You're going to be able to see those signs. But you're also, like I said, again, you're going to be able to build those relationships, not necessarily in the classroom, but outside the classroom, to help them understand. I mean, I'll go through the cafeteria and everybody knows, like, whoa, Lord, you don't even want to go into the cafeteria at lunchtime. You just want to stay clear if you can. It's loud, they laughing, whatever. Anything might pop off in the cafeteria. It just might. But I'm in the cafeteria and I'm going to go to the table. I'm going to look at you. Some of them, sometimes I'm in such a rush. And this is one of my things that I do have to address. I get so much in a rush because I have so many things on my list that I'm having to do. And one of my kids she was like, you embarrassed me. And I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? I didn't even see you. That's the point. I was saying, Coach D, hey, Coach D. And you just kept going. She was like, but you was looking right at me. I said, baby, I have 5 kids in my house, so I can look right at you and don't even hear anything, see anything, whatever. I'm a master at toning out. I had to survive with 5 kids. And I said, I am so sorry. She said, when you walk by and didn't say anything, my girlfriend said she really don't like you. I said, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I'll make it up to you now. I make it myself. I make sure that when I see her, I call her by name. I wave. I make sure when she's with her friends. It was so funny. She was like, yeah, when you left, they said she really doesn't like you.
Oh, they quick to say something. They don't like you.
Like but I mean, it's again, you were talking, and again, I can point out every kid in my classroom who is actually going through that. Whether I teach them, whether I'm working with them as a senior, a freshman, or whatever, I can really point those kids out. And I'm thankful that I build relationships. No matter where I'm at in the building, they're going to find me. If I'm out, they're going to check me on why I was out. They're going to email me. I'm like, literally, why are you emailing me right now? So they're going to check in on me, and I'm going to check in on them. So I do appreciate that, those relationships, the love and everything that we have, because it helps me. Like I said, you sat there, we're talking, and I can see the kids in my head. I know exactly what you're talking about. by those actions. So definitely all true. And we see that all the time. So are there tools or daily practices that support stronger self-esteem?
So I kind of have a mindset shift framework that I've kind of created.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like it can apply. We may have to adjust it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the first step is being aware, right? You know, they say first, you got to admit first, right? So we got to be aware of what's going on. And I think, ironically, it starts with the teachers. Again, so you can create that safe space for them so you can bring awareness to them, because we're talking about teenagers. They have no clue.
Right.
They just know they're feeling all the things. They don't know what the things mean besides what TikTok, social media has told them that the things mean, right? Like when you was talking about, I'm overstimulated. Are you overstimulated, or you just don't want to do it?
Right.
Does it make you uncomfortable, or are we truly overstimulated? Right?
Oh, they'll tell me if I, tell them to do something 2 or 3 times or whatever, and I'm like, okay, y'all. But she's overstimulated, guys. I'm like, stop using that word.
I'm not overstimulated. I just want you guys to do what I've actually did. Why do I have to say it 3 times? So actually, I'm not overstimulated, right?
Right.
So the first step is just awareness, and then alignment. So this one may be a little difficult for kids, but when I use this for adults, it's like, what is your purpose? And so even with the kids, what is your purpose right now? What are the goals that you're trying to accomplish right now? How is this helping you or not helping you? How do we get you on track? So you, like the young man, you want to be a rapper? Cool. How do we set you up for the most success? How do we make your actions, align? What do you need to shift in your mindset? Like alignment?
Alignment. So awareness, alignment,
action.
Awareness, alignment, action.
What is it that I need to do? So I'm going to use a young man. So we've talked about him becoming a rapper.
Right.
The alignment is, okay, this is what you need to do to get there. Now we need to actually take the steps. Now we need to be intentional about, okay, I'm going to make sure that I take the criticism and tweak it. And then I'm going to give it back to you so you can take it back to them.
Right.
Or whatever it may be. Like, now we got to start taking actions and being intentional about it. Because a lot of times you may have the awareness, you may get the alignment, but then you think it's just supposed to all fall in your lap without any work.
Same thing I told my senior today. We're about $25,000 short on tuition. All of a sudden now she's filling out every scholarship she can find. But you knew this in August when we were working with you. You knew the deadlines. Coach, I know. So again, they know. And like you just said, the awareness, you knew how much it was going to cost to go to your dream school. The alignment, you did everything you could, everything to get in. Application, classwork, things like that. You got aligned with whatever it was going to take to get there. So you got an alignment. But now you know that price tag is there. You're in, but you failed to do as many scholarships as you possibly could until now. Now everything is a scholarship.
Yep.
So yeah, it's that action, I think, again, that is tripping so many people up, that component. I don't know if that's the last in your A model, but I know that one is tripping a lot of people.
I have one more for those of us that are faith-based. Faith.
Oh, good gracious. Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have to do any of this on our own. And whether you're not faith-based or not, just having a community and a village is very important in everything we do. And having a community and village that actually helps us and it's not just tearing us down and not just holding us back, but actually encouraging us, giving us options, just support, and helping us get to where we're trying to get. So those are my 4.
Okay.
That I like to try to promote and give out.
So we got awareness, we got alignment, we got actions, and we got faith.
Yes.
All right. All all that. And you know what? Again, I will always say this, and I've said it as part of my slogans and a lot of the work that I do. It's literally getting understanding and getting back to the basics. And those are the basics: awareness, alignment, action, and faith. It doesn't take rocket science to do the things that we need to do. It doesn't take our kids having to be these overachievers in everything and missing so much of the core, missing so much of the character. My best friend is an HR director, and she travels the world for her company. And one of the things she has always told me when I'm coaching kids, I'm working to get kids prepared for the next level, she'll say, Kim, we just need them to have the soft skills. Teach them how to do the job, but I cannot teach them how to get along with their coworkers. I cannot teach them how to come to work every day like they're supposed to do. I cannot teach them to stay off their phones when they're supposed to be working. She was like, if y'all can get them to do this, we can train them to do what we need them to do. So again, it's that basic, that understanding, making them into be model citizens. First of all, starting with their self-awareness, their self-esteem, those, the Maslow, the hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
It's the basics. That's been around for I don't know how long. I know we've got different models, Blooms. We've come along with all kind of different stuff since then. But if we just get back to that basic model,
yep,
we will have a great amount of students who are really prepared to go out and change this world for the better place, make it a better world. So I guess looking ahead, that transition does right into the next one. Looking ahead and resources. So when you think about the future of student success, what changes or supports do you hope to see put in place?
From a clinical aspect, I would love there being more workshops and seminars that emphasize the mental health actually coming to the schools. And it's for the teachers and for the students. Again, a perfect world, I would love to see more social workers actually in the schools to be able to actually provide counseling for the students as they need it. Like that being part of the school ecosystem, that there is actually a counselor that is stationed there, counselor or a social worker. I know there's a difference between your school social workers and your school counselors, but neither one of them focuses on actually providing mental health counseling on a deep level for the students. I know they can do some surface level stuff, which is okay, which is a good start. It's better than nothing. And then they typically refer them out because of the insurances and stuff. But if that could be part of the ecosystem where there are counselors embedded into the school system that can actually address mental health concerns, the depression, the anxiety, the self-esteem, all of those things, I definitely think the environment would be a lot better, but then also providing that same support to the teachers because they need it. Because a lot of times they didn't deal with it as their teenagers. They didn't deal with it as a young adult. And so you have these adults who still struggle.
Right. That is true. And I think, that's perfect. That's perfectly in alignment with a survey answer that I had today. Our PTSA was meeting with our principal and some representatives from our superintendent's cabinet today. And so they had their student ambassadors there from PTSA, but they had sent out a survey and they asked us, okay, what do you want us to say? They gave us like 4 choices. What do you feel like are the most concerns right now at our school? And how can we support? What do you think will be some of these answers? And I literally chose one, just like you were talking about, the mental health of our students. And it was like, so what suggestions did you have? And I literally said, we need to have more professional development for the teachers on signs, awareness, how to help, how to deal with this. And our students need more workshops, and not necessarily when you're in crisis, because again, I love our counselor, our social worker that's in our building. And she knows I'm running, knocking on the door. I'm shooting her an email. Again, I had kids that applied for the Horatio Albert scholarship, and it was all about adversity. So they had to write about their adversity. And so for me having to read all of this in particular, it was heavy on me as an adult. And I was like, oh my God. You have no idea. People literally have no idea the traumas that these kids are dealing with daily. And you're just trying to get them, to behave in your classroom or to listen or to sit up straight and always to the front and whatever. But you truly, really have no idea. And so when I'm, again, because of our situation mandatory report is like, I'm having to shoot her. Okay, this is a copy of what this student wrote and I'm coming to talk to you or whatever, things like that, like immediately. But the traumas that 15, 16, and 17-year-old students are having, and not to mention, I used to teach middle school, so I knew about those, but even elementary school kids right now. As teachers, you have no idea who's sitting in your room just literally trying to survive mentally. It has nothing to do with physically, academics, anything, but they are literally trying to survive mentally in this classroom. And then on the flip side, for our students, I tell them all the time, you have no idea the pressures that teachers are under. One thing that I try to do is make my students understand we are human too. I don't know what this perception of a teacher, where y'all got it from, where society got it from. Like we were these heroes and we're above all, emotional trauma and anything. And we can take off our teacher cape and go home and then just be mom or whoever. No. It doesn't work like that. And I tell them all the time, especially if you're a teacher with a high stakes test at the end of the class. So not only do you have the normal pressures of a teacher, but now you've got test scores, district looking at you, your principals looking at your scores, the federal government's looking at your scores. Everybody's, all this is resting on your shoulders along with all the responsibilities. It's a lot. And so again, teacher appreciation weeks, they're great, but we need appreciation all year long. I always say, I want the same amount of appreciation that I was getting during COVID. Y'all was saying, take them back. Teachers need to make $1 million. Teachers are the best thing. What are they going? I could never be a teachers. Y'all are great. Like literally, we need that all year long. Because now I think we're regarded worse than we were before COVID. It was already, they thought, it was a glorified babysitting job. You got weekends off and holidays and summers. Like, do you all really understand what we deal with every day?
I'm with your kid for 6 hours.
We need that time just to try and get our minds back right.
Right.
And to come back to deal with all these personalities again. It's one thing that you got to deal with the personalities of your own children when you get home, but you're dealing with the personalities of sometimes 35 kids. 35. Crazy. And that's just one class. I got another 35 coming in after that, and another 35 coming in after that. So that's over 100 personalities that you've had to deal with in one day.
I'm done.
Yeah. So we need every break.
Yeah.
Every holiday. We need it all just to get our minds, bodies, spirits back. So again, because remember, you do have those teachers who want to do their very best, who strive to do their very best every day. It was a struggle for me. Remember, I'm resetting my mind. I'm resetting my core beliefs. I'm learning. I had a doctor's appointment. My yearly physical was last week. Now, in the past, I would have gone to the doctor's appointment, rushed back to school, and kept on going and whatever. And I was going to do this, but something this time was like, no, take your day and get your mind back, reset. You're going to the doctor, whatever. You don't put all of that on yourself. The kids will be fine. The school will be fine. It will be fine. And I actually went to the spa that day, got a massage, got a mani and a pedi, and just slept. I did my body a good service. Yeah. And then when I went back in there, I was refreshed and ready to take on. So I think, again, if nothing else, like you said, I like the fact that you want more services inside buildings. For our students. So any state representative, feds, whoever may come across this or watch it, that is very important. I hope you do go back. If you're catching this wherever somebody sends it to you, I hope you do realize that this is very important. Our teachers and our students do need mental health services, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because what will come out on the opposite end will be great.
Mm-hmm.
We can't continue to put garbage in, and expect greatness to come out on the other end. That's not how it works. If we take care of our teachers, we take care of our students on the front end, we're going to produce greatness on the back end. We're going to cut out on some of this discipline. Lord, we're going to cut out on some of the violence that's happening in our schools. We're going to rebuild our partnerships between community and the school systems. We're going to rebuild our partnerships between everybody in the building and our parents.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that needs to be done school-wide, not just a section of people who only see the counselor or the social worker in a crisis.
Right.
But if we can help it on the front end, we're going to limit the amount of crisis we have in the building.
So and see, I even go further with it. I go to, if you help the kids, teenagers become healthy and learn how to navigate, right? Just what your friend was talking about, when they come and start going to the workforce, guess what? You have healthy adults, productive in the workforce.
Yeah. It starts, again, I guess what we said at the beginning, it starts at home. Our parents are the first teacher with the character, the work ethic, putting in the time with them, helping them understand that you have a responsibility to go in these teachers' rooms and act like you got some sense. We're going to start there, number one. Then we're going through, we're making sure they're nurtured, not only academically, but emotionally and mentally along the way as well. We're doing a great job of pushing down the curriculum to where you're doing parts of algebra in second, third grade now. Because like this math about to tear my nerves up.
As a parent, I'm just looking like, you got to do what, baby? Okay.
We can't carry ones anymore. So you're saying it was, all those years we carried a one. Now we can't carry one. So, okay. All right. So we're going to learn at your way. YouTube has been my friend.
Honey, yes, YouTube, as a parent. I can teach you the way that it was taught to me because that's what makes sense to me. But I understand that your teacher needs to see your work. And so you have to do it her way. So, we're going to go ahead and own this YouTube. And I will say, at least here in the school system that we're in, they do a good job of providing the resource, providing this additional assistance, sending us, hey, these are the YouTubes that you guys can go watch if you need it as the parent to help your child. But yes, it's a whole nother ball game.
It is. And so there's stressors all around. And that's, I do hear of legislation. So I do hear of talks about mental health. But again, as we stated in the beginning, it has to go beyond a checkoff system. Yes. It has to be with fidelity. It has to be supported year after year. It can't be, we're going to do it this year, and then we're not going to support it next year. If it happens, if it keeps going, great. If it doesn't, there we can document where we put some emphasis on that section. It needs to be consistent from the top all the way down. Everybody needs these services. Yes. I do know in the district where I'm at, they just announced that every teacher, every student, every staff member will be going through de-escalation classes.
Okay.
So, to be able to de-escalate some of these situations before it gets to the point where everybody is beyond return.
Right.
So, I think that's important. And I think what you said also earlier is going to be there. Not only is it on the kids to make sure that they take this and take it with, they really truly buy into it. That's the adults too. You can't go in there saying, I don't need this.
No, you can't, because then the kids are like, well, you don't want to do it, then why I got to do it?
Right. Yeah. You cannot go in there. And we could go all day on that. Me doing professional development, trying to help teachers understand, like, first of all, your principal sitting up there giving a whole speech or whatever at the faculty meeting, and you on your phone. Please tell me how you expect the kids to listen to you. You can't expect what you won't even give yourself.
Nope.
So even when we go through these sessions, even when help is provided in other districts, even when the district is going to put those counselors, even when the district is going to allow whatever, if we had this magic wand, we were waving it and all this was in place. As the adults, you cannot be closed-minded talking about, you don't need that. They ain't talking to me.
because we
Now,
are.
that's famous right there. I don't know. That's famous when I'm doing PD, and again, I'm trying to help teachers understand. They aren't talking to you. They're talking to all of us.
They are.
They're
They're
talking to all
definitely
of us.
you. And if
So
you
you
really
don't have
feel
it
like
all.
they're
I
not
don't care if
talking
you've
to
been
you, they probably really are talking to you.
right. Yeah, I don't care if you've been a teacher for 20-something years. There's something you can learn in everything. 30 years, you're a veteran, you've been teacher of the year. There is something to learn every day. As a teacher, you have to commit to being a lifelong learner. You have to. Things are changing, children are changing, everything's changing. And if you want to be in the know, if you want to be one of those go-tos that they can count on and that has great classroom management and that the principals know that they can count on you to do right by kids, you got to continue evolving.
You do.
You can't do what we did 2 years ago, before COVID, right after COVID. It doesn't work. Keep moving, keep monitoring. The only thing that works is relationship building.
Yes.
That's the only thing that works. Great relationships.
Agreed.
All right, so let's go. We're gonna take this out of here, and I want to get your final inspiration here to all of us, all our principals, our superintendents, everybody, our counselors already in buildings, because this time is really stressful for them, especially for those who are working with seniors, to get them across the stage. So if you could leave our listeners with one message about mental wellness and education, what would it be?
It matters. It's important, and it will make a difference.
It matters. It's important, and it will make a difference. I love that. And again, you didn't come with anything that you were going to write for your dissertation. You didn't come with any data. You didn't come with any stats. You came with the basics.
Back to the basics.
It matters, it's important, and it will make a difference.
Yes.
I can't think of any other way just to end this podcast outside of saying thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For those, my listeners, definitely share this. Tag somebody, especially an educator, tag a principal, tag whoever. Send this out. This needs to be heard. This needs to be shared. You can reach out to Jerecia at www.jlcjourney.com. You can Google J. Lee Consulting. You're going to be able to find that. She's on Instagram, LinkedIn. Link with her. Bring her into your buildings. Yes. Get her set up for parent conferences, student conferences, PTSAs, whatever. So she's definitely available to book.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining, everyone. That's a wrap for today's episode of Coach D Wants to Know. I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and opened up fresh possibilities for the future. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Also, check out the resources available on my website, keystoneinstruction.com. And remember, the journey to success has many paths. Let's make sure every student finds their best fit. Until next time, together we can empower, innovate, and lead one student, one teacher, one leader at a time. See you soon.